The preparation time has ended. Speakers, please turn on your cameras so we may begin. Okay. All right, so before we can start the debate, the speakers for Tribe Talos from Talos University, please state your speaker positions.
I'll be the first speaker, Lucius. Justin will be my second speaker, and Jasmine will be my third speaker.
Sorry, he'll be the second speaker?
I will be the first speaker.
Yep.
Mogoyi will be my second speaker.
Okay.
Jasmine will be my third speaker.
Okay. May I know if there's a short name for each of you?
My name, you can call me Aloysius.
Okay.
You can call Mogoyi as Justin and Jasmine as Jasmine.
Okay. Was it Justin or Justine?
Justin. Mogoyi can be referred to as Justin.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Next, the speakers for AUM Stripes from UM. Could you please state your speaker positions?
First speaker will be Kushari. Second speaker will be me, Aisha. And third speaker will be Tia.
Okay. Okay. So good evening to the honorable adjudicators, lecturers, debaters, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start our debate today, please mute your microphones to ensure there will be no disturbance to the flow of this debate. I am Mas Aisha Sofia, and I will be the chairperson for this debate session. Meanwhile, Sarah Atika will be the timekeeper for this debate. This House called upon the motion that this House would support the Penang South Reclamation Project, PSR. Now, I would like to clarify the rules and regulations of this debate competition. For the substantive speech, the timekeeper will ring the bell at the end of the first minute to show that point of information or POI cannot be delivered. Are you going to ring the bell, for example? Okay, thanks. Okay. The timekeeper will ring once at the beginning of the 6th minute to show that time for POI is over. Okay. The timekeeper will ring twice at the 7th minute, after which the speaker has 15 seconds to conclude their speech. Okay. Then the timekeeper will ring continuously to show that the time is over, and any further explanation will not be taken into account. After both sides have presented their speeches, 3 minutes will be given to each team to prepare for their reply speeches. The opposition side will present their reply speech first, followed by the government side. Reminder, no new arguments and POIs are to be presented in the reply speeches. For the reply speeches, the timekeeper will ring once at the end of the 3rd minute to indicate that the speaker has 1 minute left to conclude their speech. And the timekeeper will ring twice at the 4th minute, in which the speaker has 10 seconds to conclude. Finally, the timekeeper will ring continuously to indicate that the time is over. All debaters are expected to have a reliable and good internet connection during this debate. Should there be any unavoidable circumstances where debaters lose connection during their speech, 5 minutes will be given for the debaters to regain their connection. If debaters fail to gain connection within the 5 minutes, marks will be given according to how far they presented before the connection was lost. Sound check will be done now as I announce the speaker speech team. When your name is called, please test your microphones to ensure you are audible. Please inform the committee if there's any problem or technical issues. Okay, so Tribe Talos from Talos University will be acting as the government team with Mr. Aloysius as the Prime Minister.
Present.
Mr. Justin as the Deputy Prime Minister.
Yes, present.
And Miss Jasmine as the government whip.
Yeah, present.
Then AUM Stripes from UM will be acting as the opposition team from this debate. Kushari will be acting as the opposition leader.
Yes.
Okay. Aisha will be acting as the deputy leader of opposition,
Yes.
and Tia will be acting as the opposition whip.
Yep.
I shall now introduce our adjudicators, Mr. Shanaf Daniel Shimbagan and Aiman Zaman. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I call upon the Prime Minister Aloysius to open the case for the government. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening to preliminary round 2. I'll say hello to my just opposition. And I will start with, and let's set a clear definition first of what the motion is at hand. The motion is about the Penang Reclamation Project, which is a reclamation project involving 4,500 acres of the southern part of the island for the development of a platform conducive for the Industry 4.0 based on a smart city concept. I'm sure you all will agree that this is a good definition of what we are discussing today. So this is in line with the 17 sustainable objectives and goals, including eradicating poverty, zero hunger, quality education, and many, many more. And this brings me to my first contention, which is the people. Ladies and gentlemen, I would state again that this is not a hero-villain story where the bad guys are the developers and they are doing this for revenue, for money. This project aims to fulfill a long-awaited and unanswered call to better the lives of Penangites. For example, fishermen, where more than 50% of fishermen in Penang have agreed to this project. The project involves the installation of artificial reefs and aggregating devices that will replenish natural marine stocks. Thus, proper development of the project will most definitely better the lives of fishermen, accounting for major fishing yields in Malaysia.
PI?
Accepted?
What exactly the reason we propose this PSR project?
The reason we are proposing this PSR project, as stated just now, if you are listening, is to fulfill the 11 SDGs, which is the Sustainable Development Goals, including no poverty, reducing inequalities, so on and so on. And SDG number 12, if you have read the brief that they have provided by the Penang South Reclamation Project developers, is also to fulfill a goal for life below water, life on land, which involves most definitely these fishermen. Allow me to continue my contention. Besides this, it will encourage young Penangites to return to the island to build new communities. Living on the same island and continuing new successful families and generations can only be beneficial to Penang to be successful in the future. And I am sure the opposition will agree. Once again, I will reinstate our stance that proper development of this project will lead to a better, safer, and more successful Penang. Besides this, one of PSR's impact on the present environment is a major concern. The current beach, seabed, ocean, and surrounding of the PSR area is inhabited. They are filled with fishing villages and they have been around for decades. Therefore, the fishermen would rather empty the ocean than to moderate the catch. Therefore, this PSR project will address this issue to allow fishermen to have a more sustainable and environmentally positive impact when they are fishing. I would like to reinstate our stance and provide a more clear view to our definition that proper development on this project will lead to a better Penang. Thank you very much.
Okay. Just hold on for a second. Okay, so the Prime Minister spoke for 5 minutes. Okay, hold on for a second. Fix these up. Okay, all right, let me just continue that. Thank you, Prime Minister. The Prime Minister spoke for 5 minutes. Now let us invite the opposition leader, Mr. Kusari, to state the opposition's objections with regards to today's motion.
Hello, can you hear me clearly?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the Prime Ministers today are really not doing his roles or his responsibilities to propose this motion clear to the member of the House. Therefore, there's a very major key flaws in the conceptual phase and also in the argumentation phase, ladies and gentlemen. First, when I asking in PRI about what exactly the intention of building this Penang South Reclamation Project, is that for this project to obey and to fulfill this 11 SDG goals, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that this is a really bigger risk in terms of making this kind of cases. Because of what? Because I can prove to you, if there's one goal that is being violated in the concept of using PSR in this PSR project, I believe that this project is not relevant, because they said that this project is gonna fulfill this 11 SDG, ladies and gentlemen. But in all of their arguments, we didn't hear any goals that being fulfilled in terms of sustainability, in terms of poverty, in terms of equality, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to prove to you why actually this concept is very problematic, ladies and gentlemen. Second, in their proposal, they never tell us about the background stories, about the background of this project. Ladies and gentlemen, did you know that the Penang South Reclamation Project is actually a successful proposal by the BIG developers with the collaboration with Hijaz Kasturi and also Gamuda, ladies and gentlemen. And did you know that this is not a government project, but this is actually a private project, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you have to understand in the context of understanding the Penang South Reclamation Project, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to the first argument. They said that by creating this Penang South Reclamation Project, we are going to create a new communities, ladies and gentlemen. 3 responses. First, what kind of community that are going to be created in this PSR project? I can say that because of the status of being private, therefore, all the occupants and all the residential are being filled by the richest person, the inventors, the wealthiest, and living in luxury. And you can see that in the second response, that if you compare this PSR project with the current Penang Island, ladies and gentlemen, it will be like Penang Island will be a dystopian, and this PSR project will be like a Tomorrowland, ladies and gentlemen. And this third response is actually violating the SDG goals, which is the inequality, ladies and gentlemen, because of these projects gonna make a very social injustice and social differences between the residential in the Penang Island and the new residential in this private project, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, I believe that they also didn't have any stance to support why they should support this project of Penang South Reclamation Project, ladies and gentlemen. Before going to the opposition case, I allow one POI.
You said that PSR is being built for rich communities and it will create a dystopian Penang. However, PSR will create and support more than 300,000 jobs, providing business opportunities to 24,000 small and medium enterprises. And I think this is something that you did not address. So what's your point?
Yeah, this is worse, because all of these workers, all of these laborers are doing the job for the richest person, for the wealthiest person to live on this island. I believe that this is the worst case of social injustice. I believe that I already proved to you that because of this one SDG goals that are not being violated, that this project is no longer should be supported, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that in the opposition side, we oppose this motion based on our stand. We believe that the negative impact of PSR outweighs the positive benefit based on our three arguments. First, harm towards the environmental and marine life. Second, the misplaced priorities of funding. And third, a form of privatization of a city. And we are going to prove our analysis based on this outline. First, I'm going to show the execution of the PSR project. Second, the threats. And third, the analysis from the previous president. I believe that the government should define or elaborate more on this measure about what is the intention, what is the precaution measures, and who is the stakeholders involved in this privatization, private project, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to the first argument, harm towards environmental and marine life. No amount of rebranding PSR as a Penang South Island or biodiversity will make this project green, as the state project going to reclaim 3 islands totaling about 4,500 acres is unnecessary and unjustifiable and likely to fail because of 3 points. First, about the marine life, because in this area, the activities of fish farming, according to the IA reports, that the proposed area for the PSR is actually a breeding ground for fish, prawns, and crabs. And in 2017, Penang marine aquaculture industry accounted about 55% of Malaysia annual marine harvest, which is, if this project continue, it is much likely to destroy this rich fishery in island and affecting the livelihood of its fishermen, which contribute to the situation of poverty, ladies and gentlemen. Second, when this can affect the other ecosystem by directly contradicting the SDG clean water by the overcrowding of the sand in terms of the construction processes, and also in terms of the pollution during the process of the construction, and this violates the SDG about the sustainability. And third one, when we explain about the artificial island marine life, we can refer to the field project. For example, like in Dubai, in Jebel Al airports, and one world island in Saudi Arabia, which is this island, this artificial island, is not actually being successful because it's because of the environmental impacts that being contributed by these private projects. I believe that even in this best case scenario, it will only create a social injustice and differences in status between the communities and between the residents of Penang Island. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kushairi. The Deputy Prime Minister spoke for 7 minutes and 5 seconds. Next, I would like to call upon the Deputy Prime Minister. I said Deputy Prime Minister just now, but okay, Kushairi is the Deputy Leader of Opposition, the Leader of Opposition. So now I call upon the Deputy Prime Minister to present their speech. Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Justin, you may now begin when you're ready.
All right. As the second speaker of the opposition, I will be rebutting the points made by the first speaker of the opposition, and also be presenting 2 more points to support the stand and the motion, which is that this House supports the PSR project. I think it is very interesting. It's a very interesting speech by the first speaker of the opposition, and I think that it is funny how they are saying it as if they are afraid of the benefits of the project. When we presented the 17 sustainable goals that we aim to fulfill through this project, it is as if they are trying to pinpoint one less and we're out. No, that's not the point. One less is still 16, it's still a lot, and we're not trying to fail here. The point of the project is to commence it in its most ideal form and way, and the commencement of it is also one of our considerations. And he made points about creating new communities and how it would lead to social injustice, inequality, and also income problems. It is as if that it is not a current problem already in Ireland. And he's taking many assumptions that these things, a giant leap to Tomorrowland will make Penang Island look as if some wasteland. And I think this is false. And he's making like great comparisons with Dubai and other famous projects that seem to him has failed. But actually, we all know that projects are site specific, and also each project is significantly different than the other. Such comparisons without detailed looking into it is actually irrelevant. So now I would like to talk about rebutting on the points that he have made, which is he is focusing on the very bad side, as if everything's going to go to the worst case scenario for the project. But no, we are arguing for the ideal commencement. If everything goes to plan, everything goes into careful consideration commencement of the project itself. I would like to argue for, firstly, on the environmental, which is a good point that I brought up by the opposition, the environmental impact of the PSR project itself. And it seems that the opposition has failed to realize that the site of the reclamation project is actually located on muddy, shallow waters, which is not a significant ecological site rich with that they claim to have ecosystems and fishes and so on. No, it's actually just
Guy?
muddy, shallow water. Yes.
Are you trying to say that all the fish farming activities over there is not important to the communities so that you can create this island?
Thank you for that point. Yes, that's a very good continuation to my next point, and I will touch on that. You mentioned yourself that it's a man-made farming. It's farming, so it's not a ecological. It's not a natural habitat. And to add on to that, the project itself actually helps the fishermen. Based on statistics, hold on, there are more than 50% of the fishermen community actually agreed to the commencement of the project. This actually helps fishermen transition from this unstable fishing industry into a more stable, a better job with a better income, and also create better opportunities for them. And also the installation of the artificial reefs that actually come with this project will also help benefit the environment itself. So it is not without careful consideration in this project. And I think it is nonsensical to think that the project will commence without careful consideration of the environmental impact. But back to my points, I think this actually creates a better impact to the environment. Prior to the project and the commencement of it and the announcement of it, many Penangites or people actually are not aware of the environmental situation of the Penang of the island and also the sea and everything else. And with this announcement, people actually raise more awareness and people actually become aware of what's happening to the island and to its reefs, to the beaches and everything. So this actually raised more awareness and it creates a better public awareness, and the public are more aware of what they are doing and what the government is doing and what the project actually brings about. And this is actually a good thing. And again, an ideal commencement of it will definitely benefit the public and also the environment itself. And based on the statistics that the social impact assessment showed that the marine catch has dropped 58% compared to 10 years prior in those areas. So the practice of overfishing, ladies and gentlemen, is actually the factor that's destroying marine lives. It is the sole factor that, not the sole factor, but it is the main factor that's destroying the marine lives. So what are we looking for actually? Is this problem, is this project just a scapegoat for people to blame the destruction of marine lives and ecosystems? No, it's actually been around since quite some time. So I will argue that the environmental impact of it is not entirely negative. There are positive, and also with the ideal commencement of the project, it can actually be beneficial to the environment and also the public. And the next point I will make is the industrial impacts that you bring and the industrial developments that you bring to the island. Yes.
You mentioned that the project destroy the marine life. So how that is sustainable as the SDGs?
Sorry, I think you have some problem listening to what I've been presenting, and no, I did not mention that. Moving on to my next point, industrial development of the island. So increasing the land area actually benefits the island and creates better opportunities, more job opportunities, and greater land to actually build manufacturing facilities, factories, and it attracts better investments, foreign or local, to the island itself. As my first speaker has mentioned, it actually brings people back to the island instead of the trend that's going on for years now, that people always move, young people especially, to the cities, KL or Selangor, to work and to look for jobs. When we actually want to bring the young generation and bring opportunities, potential, the future back to Penang and give it back to the Penangites and create a better Penang. And who is to say that Penang will not advance along with the project commencement? The project doesn't just pop up straight away in a day. It takes years, and those years are valuable and also precious for the Penangites, for the Penang island to develop itself so that it can catch up with the commencement of the project. So when it's established, there is no such gap in between. And even if there's such a gap, I believe that the people can actually improve themselves, and also the project will improve the island's overall quality of life compared to what it is before. And I think it's foolish to say that it's scared of its implications and also scared to move forward, that we want to stop ourselves from advancing the industry and advancing the Penang Island. So I would like to reinstate again that we strongly support, and we think it's very, it brings a lot of benefits and beneficial for the PSR project to commence in its most ideal form. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Justin. The Deputy Leader of Opposition spoke for 7 minutes and 7 seconds. Next, I would like to call upon, Deputy Prime Minister spoke for 7 minutes, 7 seconds. Next, I would like to call upon the Deputy Leader of Opposition to start their speech. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you. I would first like to start with a few rebuttals on the cases that were brought up by the Deputy Prime Minister. So first off, you brought up the issue about how the site is located on the shallow, muddy water. The way you stated it is in a way to sway us to follow your project, but actually these sites are mangrove sites. And we all know that mangroves are endangered species, that Malaysia is already going through many reduction of it. And I don't think this justifies your point about how we should just get rid of these mangrove sites for the sake of future developments. Other than that, fishing rates is, yes, you mentioned fishing rates are already dropping. We believe that with a new construction site, these new developments, fishing rates will drop even further because due to the disruptions of the water and all, would scare the fishes away. I don't think that would invite the fishes to come back into the seas either. And other than that, and you talk about how your site would introduce a lot, your Prime Minister, I think, brought about how the site will bring about new job opportunities to the community of Penang. But as you mentioned that these fishermen will benefit, but these low-skilled workers, I don't think they will benefit through this project because this project aims for technological industrial fields and for investors to be a part of the ecosystem, right? I don't think these fishermen will be embraced just as well into the new Industrial Revolution 4.0. That's not the goal of the Industrial Revolution, as we all know. And yeah, other than that, I would like to continue into my argument for today. So the first argument of today is the misplaced priorities of funding by the Penang government and how this construction currently directly affects the income of the Penang fishermen. So firstly, we know that, I'll reject for now, thank you. As we know that the Penang Transport Master Plan was given 46 billion ringgit to fund this project for this land extension. But then they instead ignored the projects that they've already talked about public transportation projects that was originally envisioned by the Penang government. So this is not an efficient way of using those funds. Other than that, the Penang government also has now this is not an efficient way to solve the housing and population project by building a whole new island. And another issue that Penang is currently going through is about water shortages. How will a new city solve this issue? Currently, Kedah intends to channel the bulk of their Sungai Muda water into its rice fields, not into the Penang government, as Penang government is unwilling to pay Kedah for this benefit. So if the Penang Island is unwilling to pay for that, who will be paying for the water? Who will be coming out for the water shortages when this island is already fully built? And other than that, As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic is currently happening. We're all living it right now. It's a actual economical reality that we all have to face. And the Penang government state should have cancelled or at least postponed this PSR project due to the fact that its people are already suffering with more than 2 years of not receiving income or unstable income. As we all know, the mean of monthly gross income of the fishing community in the PSR impact area is less than 2,000 ringgit. I believe that the people who earn this much money wouldn't be able to afford housing inside your PSR project. So in the end, where are they going to go? They're going to get displaced. Other than that, the mean monthly gross income of the, other than that, the fishing industry of the Penang Island contributes about 50% of the seafood production, which is the highest in Malaysia. So with this project as well, will also cause consequences to the incomes of our national economy, not just Penang's economy. And moving on to my third argument, this project is actually a form of privatization. Okay, accepted, yes.
First of all, thank you for agreeing to our statement where I stated that installation of artificial reefs and aggregating devices will instead replenish marine stocks where it benefits the fishermen instead. So what's the point?
Sorry about that, but I never agreed to your statement about that. As we all know, when you build a new island, it causes, what's this called? It blocks light penetration. So even though if you build a new reef, the sea is covered by land now. It does not provide any benefits to the new reefs that you're going to be building. It's going to be covered by the land. It does not receive sunlight. When it does not receive sunlight, therefore there's no oxygen production. How would those reefs survive through that? All right, thank you. And I'll be continuing with my third point. So for our last argument is that, as I mentioned, this island is actually a form of privatization of a city. So it focuses more on foreign investors, not on the residential. It does not benefit the people of Penang. So we ask you now, how did this project become into the privatization? It was originally proposed by the Penang government, but now the project delivery partner holds a higher stake than the actual Penang government. And now it seems that the table have turned. The masters has now become the servants to these private stakeholders. And this further does not give the confidence in the people knowing that this project is for them. It now portrays that this project is for the sake of profit and the sake of the private stakeholders. So I'll wrap this up quickly. So this new project will be regarded as a luxury area. As you know, green architecture is always portrayed as a luxury to most people because only the richest can afford green architecture. And anything that's branded by BIG architects, is something of luxury. Therefore, how can the common public be able to afford such a thing? So this shows that the local residents will not be prioritized, and this will contradict with the main aim to deal with the issue of overpopulation. Because, for example, Forest City, the main buyers were Chinese buyers, not Malaysian buyers. Malaysian buyers only accounted to 20% of the owners within the city itself. So for new cities like this, I believe there is no confidence for the public to invest in it, as it is not, it has lost its mission from what it was originally proposed by the Penang state government. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aisha. The Deputy Leader of Opposition spoke for 7 minutes and 2 seconds. Next, I would like to call upon the government with to present their case. The floor is yours.
Salutations to the adjudicators, chairperson, timekeeper, my worthy opponents, and my fellow teammates. So we as the government fully agree and support the motion, which is this House support the Penang South Reclamation Project, PSR. So my name is Jasmine, and as the third speaker from the government team, I'll be rebutting all the statements given by the first and the second speaker of the opposition team. Firstly, let me just start rebutting on the first speaker. He stated that this PSR project is not a government project. We have to agree on it, but just because it's not a government project, as long as it benefits the community and the environment, I don't think it's a problem, and it still requires approval from the National Physical Planning Council and the Penang State government so that it aligns with the SDG, which is the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And next point I'll bring is they spoke about what kind of community it'll be. We would just like to pinpoint it'll be a smart city, and they also pointed out that it will focus more on the rich people. I would say that we are planning to reduce inequality by doing this project, not widen it. And he also stated that we would have like social injustice, and people will be working for the richest person, and all these workers would have a gap between. So we as the government do not believe in this, as if currently we do, if we let the fishermen just stay as a fisherman and the development still is ongoing, the gap would still be widened day by day. So if we keep staying and let the fishermen struggle to earn their money, the gap between the rich and the poor would just widen day by day. Instead, this PSR project goal is to reduce this gap by providing them with jobs that allows them to shorten this gap. Next would be, he also stated about harms towards environmental. I would say that he stated that the marine lives will be affected, and the breeding ground of fishes, shrimps, and others would be affected, and it would also affect the livelihood of the fishermen. I would just like to say here that even with fishing, overfishing, it affects the marine lives. I'd just like to quote, the social impact assessment showed that marine catch has dropped by 58% compared to 10 years prior because of overfishing that has been destroying marine life. So I don't see a sense of it is any better if we don't have this PSR project. Moving on, they also stated about reclamation is not successful, artificial island it's not being used and stuff. I would like to bring that previously we have completed 2 successful reclamation projects in Penang itself, which is the Street Quay and Karpel Singh Drive as examples. And this development can actually encourage better environmental care. And I would like to move on to the second speaker. She stated that the fishing rates are dropping. And as my Deputy Prime Minister has said, that actually because of this, prior to this project, they actually did a survey, and more than 50% of the fishermen actually agreed on the PSR project based on the beneficial that they have. And next would be, they stated that, yeah, we would have a new job opportunity, but it would be all those industrial workers. They won't really care about this fishermen, and they won't be taken care. But this doesn't prove the point, as if this fisherman actually agreed with this in mind that they would probably have a better future, and their kids and their family could actually not migrate to other places to further their career, but instead stay in Penang itself to actually pursue their career within the same state. Next, I would just like to say that they also stated that Penang government is not ensuring, and Penang government is unwilling to pay for it. I would just like to say that Penang government, even if they're not paying for it, I don't think it's a problem, because either way, if they want to have any development, they still have to go through the National Physical Planning Council and the Penang state government to actually get an approval so that they don't harm the community. So I don't think this is just a win to the development, but the Penang government would not let the development overtake the benefits of its own community. And she also stated that because of COVID-19 pandemic, this PSR project should have been postponed. For your information, that they actually had postponed this PSR project because, if I'm not mistaken, they stated about like how 5 different companies or developments are actually looking into this project, but the final decision was supposed to be finalized and revealed on May 2020, but now they are postponing it because of COVID-19. So I don't really understand your point on how they should have canceled or postponed, as they are actually postponing it because of the COVID-19. And they also stated that it produced highest amount of seafood in Malaysia. I would just like to say that only 20% of Penang marine life industry is at the PSR place. I mean the compound itself. So meaning that even with that, on top of that, 58% of marine catch has decreases compared to 10 years prior. So even if we don't have this PSR right now, in the future, there won't be any marine life or any fishing activities available because of the overfishing and the decrease of fishing in the area. And they also stated that it focused more on investor and it's not beneficial for the community. And I would just like to reinstate again that 50%, more than 50% of fishermen have agreed on this project. And with that, I would just like to reinstate our stand where we as the government fully supports the motion, which is this House supports the Penang South Reclamation Project. With that, I would like to rest my case.
Thank you, Ms. Jasmine. The government whip spoke for 6 minutes, 28 seconds. Next, I would like to call upon the opposition whip to start your speech. The floor is yours.
Beautiful members of the House, it is very important to understand the real stakeholders and impacts of a proposal when you are proposing something as huge as a planned city. So what are the facts? What are the realities of planned cities? China is one of the main countries with over 500 new cities, and we are seeing the facts here. Most of the buildings are being purchased by investors. Most of the buildings are not inhabited. Local farmers are being abandoned. They are being forced out of the city because they couldn't afford the sky-high prices being pushed up by the investors. So these are the facts. Now let's take a look at the government's proposal on how they would like to, what are the mechanics of the PSR. So firstly, the opposition leader has already questioned the mechanism of PSR. So transportation and the displacement of fishermen. How are people from the majority concentrated populations of the northeast of the city going to travel to the south of the island where you are proposing a new development? How are those people going to move there? And how are the fishermen they are going to be placed? Where are you going to place them? So these are some important questions that the opposition hasn't answered when they say that they have the best intentions of the Penang fishermen in mind. And secondly, sustainability. The Deputy Prime Minister has already issued a very disingenuous statement where the Prime Minister has firmly stated that the project addresses all 17 SDGs, when in reality, the government has chose to ignore several questions towards the true addressing of SDG issues, and thirdly, towards the finance. So the government has talked about PSR, has talked about how it will help the Penang economy. Well, what about the public welfare, public transport, transportation systems within the city, building properties? Who are going to regulate that? Who are going to maintain that? Who are going to make sure that the property prices won't rise? Who's going to protect the city from being a property bubble? So these are some of the issues with mechanisms that the government has yet to address. So now let's move to several rebuttals to the government's points. So, beautiful members of the House, the arguments of the government is quite simple. It can be simplified into focus on two things, which is environment and economics. Now, we look at environment. So the opposition has talked about how PSR will bring more biodiversity to the area once it's complete. But what about construction? One of the main elements of constructing new islands reclaiming land is sand. And sand comes from river estuaries. So the Malaysian rivers are quite polluted enough. So we might get that from Bangladesh. And soil erosion of river estuaries in Bangladesh is a very important issue. So it's not just the environment of Penang, it's the environment of Malaysia as well that are impacted by the construction, which has not been addressed by the government. Secondly, so one of the main SDG goals is clean water. So what happens during construction? When you introduce these many construction vessels into the site, when you're trying to fill up land, you cause more erosion to the soil. You bring more pollutants to the sea water. So the government has justified that 50% drop in of fish in the sea is due to overfishing, but fish farms are cultivation farms. They are not. So the fishermen are not fishing. They're actually carrying out sustainable food farming in the industry. So we are taking away this sustainable food source for fishermen. So what are we going to replace with? So next, we'll move on to economics, which is one of the main focuses of the government as well. So they've addressed that Penang communities, the fishermen will be benefited. No, thank you. Will be benefited by this industry. So firstly, where will the displaced fishermen go during construction? Where will you house them? Do you want to push them back into the high property prices of Penang City? Where do you want to house them? Secondly, it is a fact that low-skilled workers will have difficulties transitioning to high-skilled work. We can see this in the form of new developments in Africa, where local farmers are being replaced by foreign experts. They are being replaced by foreign firms in the country. So we are taking away the food source from the people. We are also taking away the right of them to earn a living. Next, we move on to what the government assumes as an ideal construction. So the government has chosen to ignore many different glaring flaws in the implementation of this project by focusing on just the ideal construction. So let's look at the facts. They've said that Palm Jumeirah is successful. Well, Palm Jumeirah failed to account for the rising sea levels. Palm Jumeirah is sinking. It is a high-end property market, mostly being used as speculative assets, houses on the island. And Hong Kong Airport, which is famously one of the reclaimed islands, it is currently sinking, and they have to put in more sand, they have to put in more infrastructure work to make sure that it is not sinking. So this is what we are seeing from reclamation projects. So next, I would like to reiterate the government's arguments, but before that, I would accept any POIs from the government.
All right, thank you. The POI I would like to raise is that you're talking about a lot of these disadvantages that will bring and impact the fishermen and the fishing industry, and also how you can't relocate, for some reason, the man-made fishing farms and to another site. And if that is true, and those negative impacts actually will pertain, then why do fishermen actually agree, based on statistics, to this project? And
It's very
are you
important
trying to
to
stop them from developing?
Thank you. That is a very valid concern. And the government has only pointed out that only 50% of fishermen has agreed to it. So what about the other 50%? And where are you going to move the cultivation farms? Are you going to move it more towards the Penang bridges? Are you going to move it towards the tourist destinations and taking away tourism from the island? So I think it's very disingenuous to point out that 50% of the fishermen has agreed, so we'll just ignore the other 50%. Because projects have a lot of stakeholders. We have different communities, not just fishermen. What about the other industries in the site? What about the wildlife in the area? So we believe that has already been addressed in our arguments. Moving on to the opposition's arguments. Firstly, it has been proven that it harms environmental and marine life in the area. Mangroves are one of the most vulnerable ecosystems in the world, and they form part of our coastal defense system. So what if we take away most of these mangrove systems? Well, we can already see that now in the flooding of Kedah, in the major floodings of different cities in the western coast. So if this is what's the price that the other cities have to pay for PSR, the government would really have to justify why people from other western cities will need to suffer because of PSR. Secondly, we move on to the priorities of funding. Yes, the government whip has mentioned that funding, the project has resumed and the government has allocated more funding, but what about the current issues? We are forgetting that most of the people has already lost work. Most of the people are relying on welfare. So if the government is directing most of the funding towards this project, which in itself isn't benefiting the Penang fishermen, isn't benefiting the local community, so where is the benefit towards the Penangites that the government has so touted? And lastly, we'll move towards the privatization of the city. So we have already presented a strong case in Forest City, and this is also happening in other new planned cities in China. So the burden of proof is on the government to show that properties will not be snapped up by investors, which they have not addressed in their arguments. They also have to protect local fishermen. So the government has already said that, oh, they'll have a place to go, but they've not said where. How will you move those fishermen? What about their equipment? What about their place of living? So do you think you can replicate that sense of community in the new projects? So that is why the opposition strongly opposes the Penang South Reclamation Project, because the government has failed the two main beneficiaries that I've mentioned, which is one, the environmental goals because of the SDGs, and two, local Penangites. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tia. The opposition whip spoke for 7 minutes and 18 seconds. Now, 3 minutes will be given to both teams to prepare for their reply speeches. The time starts now. Okay, everyone, your 3 minutes is up. Ladies and gentlemen, this debate will resume with reply speeches. Let us now invite the opposition team to sum up the case for today's debate.
How about the timer? Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the proposition side already made two major mistakes in proposing these motions. First is their consistency of their case, because they said that they would support this project because the project's gonna brings out all the 17 SDGs, ladies and gentlemen. And I believe that this is a self-burdening case. Why? Because it is their task, it is their responsibility, and it is compulsory that they prove that this project can bring up all the 17 SDGs, ladies and gentlemen, because this is what they promised from the beginning of the debate. But they mentioned about the takeover about fish farming village. They said about the marine life is going to be destroyed. And even in this statement itself, it's contradict with their own case. And worse, this situation shows that this project violates the SDG itself. And I believe that because of this, all of their arguments should be dismissed in this debate, ladies and gentlemen, because they said that it's okay about one or two SDGs that are being violated as long as the others are being fulfilled. I believe that even the others, they are not being proven in this debate, then they already have several goals that are being violated. I believe that they are not fulfilled with their promise, ladies and gentlemen. Second, they're only referring this project into the finished status, ladies and gentlemen, which is the status about the smart cities, about the environmental awareness. But they should know that this project is still in the proposal phase, but they didn't evaluate from the perspective of site selection itself, from the perspective of the construction itself, how this thing can affect the source of income, can affect the aquatic habitats, and the fishermen itself can, they said that the fishermen has itself can have new job to build these cities. Then what happened after this project finish? Are they going to be unemployed? Are they going to be live in poverty? Are they going to live in the environment that is so unsustainable because of this difference in the Penang Island and the PSR project, ladies and gentlemen? I believe that all in all, as the opposition, we just need to prove that even there is one goal that being violated, the proposition case should be dismissed and are not relevant in this debate. Plus, as we view that our arguments are based on environmental aspects, economical aspects, and also the social impacts. And as the proposition, they also agree that this situation happened and this situation have been violated. And based on our stand, that this is because of the negative impacts of PSR outweighs the positive benefits. Based on our three arguments, first, we already proved to you that it's going to be harm towards the environmental and marine life. How we are referring to the projects of artificial cities and artificial islands around the world are not actually sustainable. For example, in the project of luxury island in Saudi Arabia. Second, we prove to you that this project should be allocating about solving the housing issues, but they are actually misplaced the priorities of funding instead of creating these luxuries island and luxury cities. And thirdly, we prove that even in the best case scenario that this smart city can be executed is actually a form of privatization of the cities, where we already see the example of forest cities in Johor Bahru, where the city is uninhabited because of the status of only foreigners and only investors that have the wealth can buy these units. And all of our argument is based on the precedents, yet these all arguments are not being rebutted by the proposition side. And I believe that the opposition should win this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kushari, for summing up the opposition's team. Lastly, we welcome the government team to sum up their case for today's debate.
Thank you, Chairperson. To begin my reply speech, I think I would like to reinform that I think that the opposition team really focuses too much on the negative speculations and also focuses too much on the negative impacts that might come with the project itself. And also, I think that they are really missing the point, and they're really indulgent in this 17 sustainable development goals, even more than us. And just because we say that we might not be able to, or they said we might not be able to fulfill all 17 that we just mentioned, we did not say we want to violate it. And they're actually putting a lot of words into our mouths, and we're not saying that we don't want the goals. Who wouldn't want to create a better and more sustainable site and also a area? And sustainability is not just about environment. It's not just about the corals and the reefs and the fishes. It's also about the people. And they're missing this great point here made by the government's prime minister as well. It's about the people. It's about bringing the island back to the people, and the people back to the island, back to where they came from, and to develop it. Because no more searching out the job opportunities and industrial opportunities in the cities and in the mainland, but actually bringing that into the island. I think they are ignoring this benefit, and they're ignoring the people, the very people that we're building for of the island. And I think it's about the quality of life. It's about increasing the quality of life of the Penangites, jobs that will be improved, upgraded, and industrialized. And it is as if the government wants to keep Penang making it remain as a fishing village, for example. I think it's certainly foolish to ignore advancements that might come with this project and keep being stagnant in the current state. I think it's simply foolish. And I think that Penang is not only, and our point is that Penang is not just only fishermen. There are a lot of people, and actually the advancements to this to the island in itself cannot be ignored. And I think it outweighs the concerns and the speculated seriousness of the project, negative speculations brought by the opposition. And we also we made the point that that the environmental impact itself is actually already happening, and it's already there way earlier before the project has commenced. And it is as if the opposition is trying to put all the blame onto this project that's not even actually started or actually bringing out its impacts. They are putting all the blame on it and saying that, oh, this is damaging the environment, this is damaging our economy. No, this is not the case. And they're also stuck on this negative speculation of the gap, of the inequality that it will come with. And again, it is as if that they are scared of advancing the industry. And this is all not without consideration. And again, the fact that there are so many considerations being done and pending approvals for the project to commence shows that how much awareness that it has created, shows how much increase in the levels of the attentiveness of the public towards the project, how much it has benefited the overall society. And again, sustainability is not a single project's burden. It's not a person's job. It's a community. It's about the whole Penang. It's about all the Penangites, every single one of them. So raising this awareness actually creates a better support and better environmental benefit. And with all these considerations, we can see that the project is actually in safe hands. It's actually, it's not in safe hands, it's in careful consideration. And again, we're arguing for the ideal commencement of the project. And we admit and we understand and we agree actually that human hands going through the project, there might be some problems going through it and negative impacts that will come with switching of authorities and all. But again, the ideal